Welcome to the VIFF Podcast, recorded on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. This podcast is a chance to hear more from the filmmakers presenting work at the annual Vancouver International Film Festival, as well as year-round at the VIFF Center. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the VIFF Podcast. My name is Curtis Walaschuk. I'm Director of Programming at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and very excited to be joined by two of the collaborators behind A Welcome Distraction, Brian Daniel Johnson and Dide Bilgin, Director, Producer, respectively. How you two doing today?
So good. Hi, Curtis.
Really well.
Pleasure to have you here. I'm wondering if we maybe just kick it off by having you describe A Welcome Distraction to us in your own words.
So Welcome Distraction is a film about a young man in Vancouver named Ernest. We meet him in the midst of him trying to avoid his family after a tragic family event. And he's kind of looking for connection in other parts of his life, or trying to kind of find new connections and get rid of his old connections. And through that, he ends up kind of getting ensnared in what I like to call like a wellness group, like kind of a research and development group, that as the movie goes on, kind of reveals to have some stranger ambitions. And it's a movie about avoidance and connection and Vancouver and everything.
I like that. In summation, everything.
Everything.
Yes. So very, very situated in Vancouver. Both of you lived in Vancouver for a while. I think for yourself, for film school as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, was this born of some of those experiences you had trying to acclimatize to the city? And was that maybe wed with other factors within your own kind of circle that you drew from in terms of building this narrative?
I'm originally from Tacoma, Washington, so not that far, and culturally, very, very similar, but there are differences, plenty of differences. And so I certainly, as I was kind of coming of age here, I moved here when I was 18. I lived here until I was 27, not here anymore, but desperately trying to get back. And I think it definitely built out of, it's anybody you talk to in Vancouver, it is kind of like this unique challenge of like trying to find a group, trying to find a connection. And I'm lucky enough to be on the other side and have a great friend group now. And once you're in, and people are really loyal and they're really dedicated to you, but it can be really tricky to find that. And I was lucky enough to never really have like a huge, collapse of a friend group, but I've seen that happen too. And then you have to start all over again. And when you're at kind of like at the bottom of the ladder in Vancouver, it's, for whatever reason, it's really challenging to kind of find connection. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Vancouver's a pretty young city. And so coming here, you can tell that there's an identity that is being formed, by its residents, like slowly and gradually, and you want to be a part of that in a way. I think even, say a new restaurant would pop up and a group of our friends would all go just to be like, will we capture the essence of this place? Will this be our spot? And so there's kind of a constant digging for like acceptance and for, a place to kind of call home, especially in a group setting. But I think a lot of the themes in this film really reflect what we were even going through at the time of, searching for our spot, our people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of an obscured city. And once you uncover it, you discover all these rich little pockets. But the surface is like, it's hard to penetrate sometimes.
Well, you mentioned, trying to find your people, but in that respect, like your collaborators on the film, I know Andre, your cinematographer, shot some of your short films, Brian. Mm-hmm. Also shot Sam Aseni, your editor's short film, and then, as mentioned, Sam's your editor. So maybe you can speak a little bit just to like from the craft standpoint or the crew that you assembled for the film, how these people kind of came into your orbit and the shared sensibility that you're operating with.
Yeah, we pretty much all met in film school, so I really owe a lot to UBC for nothing more than just that, just bringing us all together. The vast majority of us kind of came from there. And then if it wasn't somebody that we directly met at film school, anybody else we met through them, so it was like they were like the real starting point for everything. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know how other people do it, but that's how I like to do it. Is I just, I mean, making a movie is really hard. I get really nervous when I'm on set, particularly if it's like a bunch of, new people, new faces. I have to kind of present a certain way. So I think that, yeah, I mean, having dedicated collaborators, people who like want to come back, and it's nice enough that they like to work with me as well. But yeah, it's just, once you make something, if it feels good, you kind of want to bring those people back and you want to keep working with them. And so just lucky that those people are still around, because, Vancouver can be kind of transient sometimes. Yeah. Some people want to move to Toronto or they want to move to the States. But I think more and more, there's been more of a personality of people wanting to stay here and build things here. And I think we got lucky.
Yeah, I think kind of the UBC cohort is in and around the city, like the film production program cohort. But I think what we learned during that program is how much we could push each other. Obviously not to like a breaking point, but see how much we could challenge like the work. And that was really exciting because you have a confidant or someone who knows how to push your buttons to make you do the best work that you can, and also people you trust, like Andre.
Andre's really good at pushing buttons.
Yeah, I think that he has a vision, and there's a lot of people that in that program kind of came with the idea that they would direct as well, and so I think there's a lot of directorial elements, and like Sam as our editor is a director. Maddie Chang, my producing partner, has directed. Andre has directed, and so I think we're all taking a look at story in our own respective departments, but with kind of a background of like knowing where you're trying to lead it. So yeah, it's kind of a found family. It's interesting. I always say that we're like cinematically entwined now, because we've done some shorts together, we've done docs together, we hire each other. Yeah, it's an economy.
Yeah, and it's nice because we can kind of trade off roles.
Yeah.
Which I think when I was like really young and I was like really first getting into this whole directing thing, I was like, it's the only thing I can do, and anything that I do that's not directing is like working against me. But then all that stuff kind of goes out the window when you're with friends, and it's like Dide Sue made a short that I don't even know what I did. I just kind of helped out on. I was
Which
like, Essence, Just Me and the Dogs.
Oh yeah.
Dide Sue made that, and we got to be kind of a part of that. So there's all this just different like role reversals that we do, and when you realize that it all kind of goes back to just like getting a film made and getting a film up and out, it kind of doesn't matter what you're doing in a way.
Well, you mentioned off the top, this film is built around or orbits kind of around the character of Ernest. And I'm wondering for yourself as the writer on the film as well, did Ernest, the character, come to you first, or did Simon Farrell, the actor, come to you first?
Yeah, that's a great question. Simon definitely came to me first. It'd be wrong for me to say that it was based on him. I mean, it's a different character from him. Simon's a much better communicator than Ernest, but it definitely came out of that. And I feel like I'm talking about luck a lot, but that was really like Simon. I feel very lucky to have met Simon, because I think that is maybe the missing puzzle piece sometimes is, you can have a really great team behind the scenes, but it's like at the end of the day, you need great actors. And Simon really has like an electricity, like he's really alive on screen. And he has really interesting instincts. He has a logic that keeps things really alive and keeps things moving. I think sometimes there's an impulse to go smaller, to go more subtle. And he's really just nice to have on set, because he's, well, what if we did this? It's like, what if we did this? What if we agitated it in this way? So it definitely came out of that, and it came out of, working with him on Sidewalks. I mean, this whole project, it's like we did Sidewalks, and maybe halfway through actually working with him, like, having him on set, I was like, oh, like, I just want to do this. I want to do this more. Like I want to be with him more. And so I was like, okay, I'll put him in every scene of this movie that we're doing. I can work with him more, you know?
Well, Sam, our editor, mentioned this recently that really kind of stuck in my brain. He said, when you have an actor with presence, it would be a shame not to hone in on it. And Simon definitely has a presence, especially as Ernest, because there's bits and pieces of Ernest in there, for sure. But even on a producing standpoint, it was so nice to have a lead that was really kind of in it for the long haul. Even recently, he was like, if you guys would have asked me to do this for 2 years, I would have. And
Yeah.
that's a very grand gesture from Mr. Simon Farrell.
Very dedicated to something that, yeah, if you were on the outside looking in, you would be like, no, like, what are you guys doing? So it's great that it's great that everybody trusted each other. But really, I mean, again, going back to, it's like the actor is so important. And so for him to be dedicated, I've heard of people do processes like these with maybe actors that they just kind of cast in a traditional process, but then it's an unconventional story, and then the actor gets kind of weird, and there's like drama, and so, you know, I don't know. I'm very lucky to have
names,
that.
Names.
No, it's like some stupid article I read on the internet. But yeah, I think we're really lucky, you know.
Oh, you mentioned what you were doing with this film, and Simon potentially being up for 2 years. So you did shoot this over the course of a year, and if I understand correctly, kind of you embarked on this as an experiment of sorts, just to see what could be accomplished with the resources you had, which we shall say are minimal. Were minimal.
They were minimal, but they revealed themselves
Okay.
to be a lot through a series of unique circumstances. Revealed themselves.
This
to
is
be,
in hindsight, though, we're saying this.
Well, exactly, yeah. But at the time, I mean, yeah, we were really limiting ourselves to basically what we could afford, you know.
And how much did you shoot in sequence? And I'm wondering if, as that year drew to a close, did you find yourself kind of filling out the connective tissue, maybe narratively, of the film as well?
You know, do you want to take this? You were the master of the schedule.
Yeah, I have a like AD background, so a lot of producerial, the way Maddie and I would split up things was kind of like I would take a little bit more of like the day logistics. But in terms of to shoot something linear this way, was, I think, an advantage. I really enjoyed it because it was kind of building off things that we had done before, also not certainly like revisiting the locations if we weren't able to go back, like really kind of communicating with Brian, saying like, oh, the house that we shot in with Nolan's place is no longer available, so we won't be able to go. Are you able to see how the story can flow without heading back there? And so I'm sort of forgetting the question, but
We're just talking about linearity, which for the most part we did.
Yeah,
and that was
Yeah.
something that I was talking about. I was talking to someone earlier that it's kind of, you know, when you present the way that we made this project, it seems very hard and restrictive, right? It's like, oh, you don't have very many resources, and, you know, you're working, you know, on weekends, blah, blah, blah. But there were a lot of freedoms that we were afforded, and linearity was one of them. You know, it's like, I've never made this is my first film. And so for my first film to be 25 shooting days is like more than average. And we shot completely in sequence, which is also kind of uncommon. It was like an uncommon luxury for most people. So it was like there were like weirdly advantages to the process.
Also, the characters could kind of find themselves within it. I think a lot of collaboration happened between you and Ernest, or you and Simon, kind of discussing where this character was going to go and building off of the decisions that were made in like the previous month's shooting block, and saying like, okay, so he's in this headspace now, let's stay in here, or let's make a different decision.
We had to stay kind of nimble because, you know, like once we kind of merged from, okay, are we just shooting like experimental, like are we shooting a series of short films, or are we shooting a feature? And we switched over to feature pretty quick, like within the first couple instances of shooting. And then from there, I kind of made a skeleton of like, you know, okay, what is the deeper background here? What are we after? Where do we want to get him right at the end? But it was really vague. It was kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it was really vague because I don't want to write a scene for a bunch of people that has to take place at a specific place in December and give it to everybody in March. And then, you know, with no money, I can't hold them down on a contract and say, you have to be here in December. So I had to be kind of loose and I had to kind of like roll with it. And then as we would get closer, it was really a balancing act of like, you want to have it done so that you can rehearse and you can plan and you can, you know, you can location scout. But you also need to be loose enough to act on the fly. If somebody says like, hey, like, you know, I gotta go see family, or I want to go here, or I'm moving to Toronto. Why they do that, I don't know. But yeah, so it was an interesting balancing act.
And so that sounds very much like you were kind of constantly, maybe not even rewriting, but would you suggest you were rewriting over the course of the year, or were you actually writing in installments over the course of the year?
Yeah, it was writing in installments for sure. I would we would wrap the last one. I would try to have basically the form of the next one by the time we wrap the last one, so I could give that to the actors, and I could give that to the team, and we could start scouting. But then I would go in and, you know, it would be like a 3-page dialogue scene where I would be like, Ernest and Mallory argue. And then I'd like have to move on because, you know, I just wanted to have something for people just to say like, okay, you're going to have to be here on the day. You're going to be in the next one. Clear your schedule in like 2 months, roughly. But then, then it was kind of constantly writing. And at the time, like we were trying to edit as well. And then I kind of gave up on that because I was like, I can't do all three. I was like, one had to go by the wayside.
But by the time we would get to picture, there was a confidence of having reworked the script several times, knowing, because we had to know exactly what we were going to venture out on. The actors had to know, because I feel like money almost equated to the luxury of having time and takes and all of this. And so even though we were like kind of all friends in like the pre-production, the moment we would get to set, it would be a very professional atmosphere of like, we all know our jobs, we got to get out of here in this much time. We need to make sure we hit the beats. And so, yeah, I think there was like a confidence that we stepped into it with, which was great because we could exercise that muscle. And that was the whole point as well of trying to do this. It's an experiment, but at the same time, we're all in these roles that we want to do, and how can we flex these muscles consistently, given we were working all 9 to 5. So that was a really fun aspect that, like, by the time we were there, Brian had a vision for the day. Maddie and I knew kind of where we had to be, how many cars there were, etc. And Andre, you know, blocking wizard, would get to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really speaks to the dedication that everybody had to get to the end of it. I think that on paper, like, it's like I tried to do something like this in high school. I feel like everybody's tried to do something like this in high school, and it's like inevitably it falls apart. It's hard to get people together. But something happened. I think it's just like the group somehow was all on the same wavelength, and we all had more or less the same amount of investment into the project. So even though it was hard, there was never really a moment to pull the plug. I think everybody wanted to, you know what I mean? Which is crazy because it would have been so easy to just say, this is really hard. I'm going to go do like 4-day calls, blah, blah, blah. Like, and just be done with this. Sorry. Nice knowing you. And I like, but I don't know. I think we all love each other. I do, at least.
It strikes me that maybe one of the interesting effects of this production model as well, the finished film does feel almost as if it's segmented into chapters without like a very clear, structural indication of this as well.
Yeah.
And I know you've written short stories before as well. I'm wondering if the process of writing and producing the film this way has maybe made you rethink your own process as a writer, or how you would approach future projects as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. It was a funny thing approaching it because in a roundabout way, I kind of realized it early on in the process that like I was really curious in jumping time, I always find it really cheesy when there's like a title card, like the 3 months later, the whatever. And so that was something that was just like a purely personal thing. It was like a little hobby within the movie, was like, okay, can I execute like big time jumps and how much faith can I put in the audience to say like, okay, we're gonna jump, and there's gonna be changes in the environment. It might not be immediately obvious, but how can we communicate that? And I definitely think it's very understated in the movie, but I really quite like how it ends up flowing, because I think it speaks to how time can really kind of get away from you, where it's like suddenly it's summer, and then suddenly the summer's over and it's fall and you got your coat back on. Like I felt like that coming here. I was like, oh my God, summer's over, you know? So yeah, I mean, how it is going to inform my process in it'll inevitably inform my process in the future. I mean, I've yet to get back to writing. I'm excited to get back to writing, so I'll let you know. But I'm sure it's gonna affect it somehow. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think on the producing end, there was this was my first like big project, feature film producing, but the litany of like putting out fires, just knowing that it really is never too late to fix something, or make an addition or make a change. That is like a very fun, I don't know, it's an adrenaline kick part of it, where you try and problem solve quickly but efficiently, and making sure you're making the smart moves. But I think Maddie and I definitely played to our strengths in terms of producing together. I think that was a really eye-opening way of working. And by the time I think we did our last shooting block, it was definitely a well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
and so
really dived
yeah,
in by the end.
I
Yeah.
think producing together like that, I'll definitely be taking that into the future. But yeah.
The shooting in the matter you did, I'm curious as well about as a director, how you kind of managed tone or consistency of tone as well. When you're kind of getting people back and maybe they've been working on other things in between, like getting everyone back on that same page tonally as well.
Yeah, for sure. That was like a big one. I think because of how much time would happen, that was like maybe I'm not gonna say a disadvantage, but like that was a factor to consider. Is that, yeah, I mean, inevitably, I'm pretty sure every actor that was on the movie at least once did something in between our sections, and then they would come back. And then there would be actors who maybe would be on section block 4 and then block 6, so they missed a gap in the middle, so we haven't seen them for like 4 or 5 months. And it was just about, I mean, it was about really trying to find the time before the shoot to just talk to them, kind of remind them about where their character was at. Sometimes it was sharing footage because we would have little assemblies, which was nice. But most of the time it was just kind of talking about, okay, remember where you were. This is kind of where we're headed. Luckily, again, we had that kind of, I had that skeleton framework. So they kind of had an idea of their arcs going into it. And so it's just kind of, again, just refreshing them. Music was a big help. For me personally, I would share music with some of the actors, definitely with Simon. But it was also just really helpful for me because I would have a little kind of like musical kind of, it's just a feeling of like, okay, it should feel like this. Like this scene, it's like, this is Ernest's low point, and he's feeling kind of like this, Radiohead, or like the Smile song. And so I'd listen to that, and then I was like, okay, that's the feeling I'm looking for. And then when we would go about doing it in rehearsal or on the set, I would be like, okay, am I getting that same feeling? Okay, cool. We're like on the same path. Because tone is so weird. Tone is like it's the hardest thing because you cannot put it into words. I mean, but tone is like, I mean, I studied music in high school and into college. And so, like tone and feeling, it is like, it's subconscious. It's like you feel it on a subconscious level. So it's tricky to like when you're really trying to find it, like a tone that you've described with a word, that always, I feel like, puts me into a corner. But if I just have this kind of like nebulous thing in my head or in my chest, and then you just try to get that out on the day from the actors, then you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I'm right there with you. There's a lot that didn't make it in the film, I think, because it wasn't suitable, or it like kind of distracted from maybe the main plot line. So it was
The wrong type of distraction.
wrong type of distraction. Yeah.
The B-side.
The B-side,
yeah.
The B-side's crazy.
Well, actually, it's funny because I was going to ask you about like decisions on like what to withhold, be it character details or background details around Ernest, or about the group he's kind of falling into, or Mallory. Like, so yeah, if you're comfortable speaking to like how much of that occurred to you, or came to the fore in the edit, and making sure did you make sure you had enough footage to take different approaches?
There's like a different version of the movie that's basically more exposition heavy on the group, and it was a conversation that Sam and I had in the edit, where it's like, we were looking at it and it was like the movie was longer and it felt like a little bit more laborious to get through, and the scene, like basically what we were feeling, and whether this is just kind of like me maybe not fully taking care of it on the day in the shooting of it, but it kind of just felt like it was getting in the way of Ernest's journey. And so we kind of felt it just felt like it was coming from a different movie whenever we would get into kind of like the nitty gritty of the research that they were doing. And so ultimately kind of what we ended up going for, not too much was actually ended up getting cut out of the movie, but what we ended up going for was basically this idea of that, like, it's not the science, the pseudoscience of this group that is the important thing. It's this idea of like everybody in this group is kind of one way or another avoiding their problems, and they're literally going to the extent of doing something that doesn't make sense. It's like doing kind of busy work, pantomime work, to ignore this thing that's behind them, and that's ultimately what Simon, what Andre's, or oh my god, they're all my friends.
Ernest.
What Ernest is doing is the same thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a bunch of people sticking their heads in the sand. So yeah, that was kind of ultimately what we went for, was, and just every time that we shot Simon, I mean, it was very close. It's very much from his perspective. And he's not the top dog. It's not like he like rose to be the leader or anything like that. He was kind of skirting around on the surface as it is. And I think he was just there for the girl to begin with, until.
That's your take as writer or director.
Yeah, that's my take. I don't know. What do you guys think? So
I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about any brushes with wellness that you had. That
my own personal
that informed this.
I just think it's all around us. I mean, I grew up in the Northwest, and I think I don't know what it is about the Northwest, but I'm not cynical to it. Like I don't mean to like make fun of it or anything like that. I do think that there's like a lot of place for it, but I can also see how it can get carried away. I think it can get a little bit, as with anything, it can get a little bit nefarious. I feel like what's next for that group, for Roman, is like a subscription model. You know what I mean? Because in this day and age, I mean, I think real wellness is like an internal thing that you have to find within yourself. And promises of fixing things can just get kind of dangerous. So I don't know. It's always been kind of around me, and I dabble, but then like the practical, I mean, I was raised by an accountant and an engineer. So at a certain point, the practicality kicks in, and they're like, okay, guys, like, we got to make dinner, or like, I need to buy some groceries. Like, I need to get back to life. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's, again, people get lonely in this city, and people are looking for answers, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I think when I think about like the wellness group, the search, I think about how there's a lot of mimicry that takes place when it comes to maybe trying to find like some peace within yourself or trying to work through something. There's this idea that there's a route there's someone to show you the way, and there's like kind of like the step-by-step process that if you follow it to the T, you will kind of end up in this maybe euphoric state of, you know, bliss and happiness, etc. But it almost is never the case. And so I think Roman, played by Adriana Marchand, is this really charismatic leader who, you know, hones in a lot of like confidence and can tell you where to be at what time, to put your phone in a box and, you know, throw it away. And so
Yeah, I think that really it's like she's like a con artist of sorts. But I don't believe that there's anything necessarily ingenuine about her. I mean, I think that she, at least from the start, she felt like she was helping people. And I think everybody in that group is like, they just want a leader. Like every friend group has a leader, and that's kind of how I imagined her starting out, was just being this charismatic leader of a group, and maybe having a personal philosophy, and people bought into it. And pretty soon the lines are blurred of like, you know, yeah, the lines get blurred all around, you know.
I believe when you emailed me about the film before submitting it to the festival, Dide, you said it was like set in Vancouver, but Vancouver in air quotes. And I'm wondering how you feel now that the film is done. Do you feel, if you feel it's is it an accurate depiction? Is it an obscured depiction? Is it an abstracted depiction at this stage in time?
I think it's a version. I think that I think the reality is that there's many versions of Vancouver. And I think we've seen a lot of them at the festival this year. But I think this is my version. This is definitely a version. Yeah, I think the characters maybe are a little bit, you know, they're a little bit caricaturized. They're a little bit big. But I think it speaks to certain mindsets in Vancouver that I'm interested in. I wanted to give it a little bit of life. I mean, I wasn't after like a totally like not dead realism, but like a really like harsh realism. I wanted a little bit of kind of levity. And I hope you can see that in the filmmaking. But yeah, it's my Vancouver, I would say that.
Yeah, I remember kind of writing that, and I think I was thinking more in the sense that there's a lot of people in this city who I feel like I know, but I have never met them, or they've kind of like walked past me, or I'm like, oh, maybe we've run in a similar circle, or, you know, there's kind of the what's the phrase for that person that you kind of constantly run into, but you never meet? It's like a hiking phrase.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're.
Anyway, it's kind of this philosophy that you're like constantly bumping past, but will never actually kind of align until one of you makes the move to break the silence.
Yeah.
And I think Vancouver had this aura around it at the time, especially in university, I think. And my entire undergrad was kind of spent trying to like break that boundary of, you know, I was kind of like a golden retriever kid, where I was just like, if I saw you once, I would go and talk to you. And so, yeah, in exploring these, like all these locations in Vancouver where we had kind of built memories throughout this film, knowing like, okay, we can shoot here, we know the restaurant owner, et cetera, et cetera. It kind of became this culmination of all of these spots that we had visited and had moments in. So we were kind of not like replicating things in the film, but there was a sense of home built into it when we were filming. It was unconscious, but we knew we could get away with things in certain places. I mean, we shot the studio that we're in right now. There's a scene that was filmed right outside of here. And Rami, my boss, who is right over there, let us use the bathroom in this studio.
Yeah, he was for
example. So it's
Thanks, Rami.
It's about wandering around in Vancouver alone in order to kind of like find these special moments. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, inviting those closest to you to share those spaces.
I'll tell you a quick great story about, we were kind of halfway through. It's in that first, without giving anything away, it's the first scene at this group's house, that like party scene. And we were shooting it, and our gaffer for the weekend, Justin Weedo, we were kind of doing a scene and they were all sitting in the room and they were kind of being, kind of doing their thing. And our gaffer came over to me and he kind of leaned over. I was at the monitor. He leaned over and he's like, man, I've been to parties exactly like this. I was like, oh, cool. Like, okay, cool. We're not far off. Cause you write it and you're like, oh man, like, are we doing this like high concept thing? Is this going to be like a stretch? But, it seemed to connect. It connected with people. Like they're the first test. Like your crew is the first test for those things. And, so that gave me a lot of confidence. I was like, okay, like, cool. We can keep going this way. We don't have to shy away. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap things up, we have some questions we'd like to ask all of our guests. So curious for each of you, a formative memory you had in cinema. This could be from childhood or other points in life that really resonated with you, and maybe eventually resulted with you being in this conversation today.
Totally. Do you have one? I have one with both of us.
Oh, okay. Is it F for fake?
No, it's
okay.
The other one.
Never
Are
mind.
you gonna do F for fake?
No. I would say a very like pivotal moment in, I guess, my filmmaking oeuvre was watching. I took a gap year in between high school and university because I didn't want to be on this conveyor belt of education. I think I just wanted a moment, and I decided to audit this graphic design class at SDSU. And my teacher, Arzu Özkal, played Agnes Varda's Gleaners and I in the classroom, just kind of projected into the screen while all the laptop screens are on. And I think the way I found myself falling into that documentary really shaped the way I am attracted to narrative. I think I'm a big fan of Varda's work, and so there's like an authenticity to the way she follows and like lets her instincts kind of dictate the story that I find really, really attractive. And I would say like I very distinctly remember the type of chair I was sitting in, kind of like the exact perspective I was watching it, and yet when I think back on it, I don't remember anyone else in that room but myself. And so I'm kind of I would say maybe that is definitely pretty sick. And it happened later on too. It's not like it's not a childhood journey. It was just kind of like this is a filmmaker I had no idea about, and we speak a different language, and yet she can communicate this fantastic film. And I'm really into gleaning. I think I would be down to glean some grapes.
I'm down to glean. Totally. Well, you want to go glean after?
I'm down to glean.
Mine was here. It was at the Cinematheque. I went to the Cinematheque with Dide and our really good friend Jake Pascoe, who's a great filmmaker in town. We went to see Mind Game by Masaki Yuasa, and I'd never seen anything like it. And it was an empty theater except me and my friends, and then my film professor and her friends. And so there's 6 people in the theater. I don't know why, but she sat right behind us the whole time.
It's Christine Evans. Right?
Shout out Christine Evans.
Yeah.
We love Christine. And it just completely, I mean, we were in film school, so we were like ready to just kind of like devour anything. And that movie is just so free. I mean, it's an anime, but it's so, even for an anime, it's so free. It's so funny. It has such, I loved how crass it was, but the emotions are so pure. The feelings of love are so pure. I love that it's this like random group of people that become completely intertwined in the belly of a whale for most of the movie. And then, the movie's like an hour and 45 minutes. And then we walked around downtown. I think we walked all the way over the Burrard Bridge talking about it for another like hour and 45. And so, that's a really special one for me. It's so like electric. And for movies to do that, to like kick you out of the theater and you're still thinking about it and talking about it and just reliving it, I think that's just what I want to do,
Knock at the door.
Come in. Okay.
All right.
We're just wrapping up this one here. Good to see you, Jeremy. And then, curious for each of you, is there a moment you remember kind of that set you on the course for filmmaking, or that made you choose filmmaking as a practice you wanted to explore?
It's like a series of little ones, I think. I think they all kind of compound up. I don't think I ever had like a cinema paradiso moment or anything like that. I think that's what that movie's about. I can't remember. I don't think so actually, but yeah, just little things. I mean, my family wasn't in filmmaking, but they liked watching movies. And I really owe credit to both my sisters for because I had two older sisters. And so it's like we would watch the like Indiana Jones or the Spielberg movie. And then, my sister would slip me like Donnie Darko or like Magnolia. And then I just kind of like build up from there and there and there. And then, yeah. And then just making movies with my friends, seeing what worked. I love playing with the toys, playing with the cameras and so it just kind of compounded. And I just kind of got sucked into, the way that you can use it as language. Like I think it hit me one day that I made something in my bedroom. I had a bunch of like junk lying around, like weird props, and I made this weird little thing. And I remember showing it to my dad, and who was like this very kind of straightforward guy. And he like got something out of it. I was like, oh, like I was able to tell him, not that I have like communication issues with my dad, but like I was able to communicate something to him through this thing, through editing and picture and editing and sound. So that's kind of when it hit me. I was like, oh, it's a language. And so, but it's a hard language to learn. Yeah.
I always wanted to do this. No, I like from the get-go, there's like some sort of like preschool or like kindergarten newspaper where someone interviews me and there's like a line that says like I want to direct movies, like of me saying it. And yeah, I think the reality is that my family moved around a lot, and we would take all of the DVDs out of their sleeves and pack them into like a really compact little booklet, Bible. And that would be the most consistent thing that moved around with us. It wouldn't be but like our clothes, our furniture, nothing like that, but it was just kind of these like satchels of movies. And yeah, my parents are both microbiologists, and so it was interesting because they are really good storytellers. Yeah, they're just really good at kind of getting you in a dinner table conversation. And so my mom's love for James Bond was huge. And all my dad's kind of like, my dad's a big performance guy. He really enjoys like an actor's performance. And so, yeah, I think feeding off of their enthusiasm and just knowing that I would always have these movies with me was really exciting. And yeah, it's a great medium, and it's such a collaborative medium. You've got so many people you work with, and I think that is so fun. Yeah, I don't like working alone. I think.
No thanks.
Yeah.
And then finally, if we cut ahead X number of years, you're wandering down the street and you look up at a marquee and a welcome distraction has been paired with another film as a double bill. What would kind of fill your heart?
Well, we decided this last night, and now I'm wondering if it's the right choice, but I'll say it anyways. I just saw Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, and I don't think that's maybe people's go-to double bill, but I think it's Canadian spirit, shooting, not really knowing what you're going to get at the end, and kind of pulling something together out of it. I think, yeah, that's what I would do.
In the order, they're first, right?
I think we would be first, because I think you want to end on a major key. Right. I would say ours is a little bit more of a minor key.
Have you seen that movie?
I have indeed.
Okay,
and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think just the spirit.
We'll honor the year of 2025.
Yeah.
With this double bill years down the road.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And yeah.
Thanks, Curtis.
Great
having you at the festival.
Awesome.
This is great.
Thanks, Curtis.
I'm done with this.
This interview's over.
This interview's over.
Thanks for listening to the VIFF Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Also, check out VIFF.org to learn more about what's happening at the VIFF Center year-round.